Yo, what is up, guys? It is your boy Instinct, and welcome back to another video here on the channel. This will be the final part of a three-little part series. If you haven't seen, go check out the playlist. There is LBA Part 9 for The Hobbit. If you haven't checked it out, I would go do it now. I'll give you a warning. Okay, now that you should be gone. We did, on that episode, hit the 100% on Lego The Hobbit. It was quite a journey. It was a little bit of a longer episode. It went for about 2 hours instead of an hour and 30. But we did do that. And this is part 3 of a 3-part sort of videos thing. The first part, if you haven't, I would go check it out. They should be in the playlist before this one goes up. So if you haven't seen them, I would go check it out first. Okay, now that you should be gone. The first part would be the showcase of the bonus level, which was very short. It's about a 4-minute video, so shouldn't take you very long to watch. Then the second part was the red brick showcase. I think it was about 13 minutes. And here we are now with the last one, which is going to be the longest of the 3, which is the character showcase. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be showcasing every character in the game, starting from the top and to the bottom. Customs, of course. I will show off the DLCs. Customs are not going to be in this because they're basically nothing. But first, our first character here starting with is Thorin Young. He has that he can fit in, and I'm not going to go over all these abilities. You can sort of see them as we select the character. If you need to pause the video, you can do so when we select them. But this is Thorin Young. We have here, he's got a really cool cape on his back. He's got really long hair. It's kind of intricate. You don't really see that on most characters. He's got a really cool sort of chest piece design, and he has multiple weapons. He has this sword that he's kind of just usually using, and then he has his axe. Okay, that's going to be that. Then next up we have Thrain, which I believe Thrain is Thorin's father. He's gonna have this really nice headpiece that gives the beard is along with the headpiece. It's not two separate pieces. He has a really nice chest piece design, very intricate. Nobody else has it, and he is gonna have only one weapon here, which would be his hammer. Next up, we have Balin Young, of course, Thorin's best friend here when he was a little younger. He is, of course, very interesting. Most of the characters in this game have their own chest pieces that are interesting to them, and nobody else really shares them. Of course, he has this sort of like sword weapon, and of course, he's a dwarf, so he would have his axe as well. Next up, we have Thror, which is, of course, the king under the mountain, or the king under the mountain at the beginning of The Hobbit. This is Thorin's grandfather, Thrain's father. And he's got a really cool headpiece for his crown, as well as his beard is very special. No one else in the game physically has anything like it. You can't really see his chest piece, but I think it sort of is unique, but it can also be kind of brought back to Thorin a little bit. He has his sword, and then of course he has his axe as well. His sword's very interesting. It's not the same as Thorin's, as most people I think I've seen. They're like, it's the same, but it is not the same as Thorin's, I believe. Alright, next up, we have the Armored Dwarf Guard. Now, he is not very anything special. It's just kind of a dwarf in armor. He's at the beginning of the game, and he just has his spear, and that's just about all that he really has. There's nothing interesting about him. He's sort of just here to be here. Alright, then we have Frodo, which is very cool that they added him in the game, considering he is only in about one scene in the whole entire Hobbit in the beginning of the first movie. There's not much he can really do in the game, but he is here for show and looks. But then, of course, we have his best friend Sam, who is actually very, very helpful in this game. You can start fires and stuff, and he's got a very interesting design. Of course, if you've ever played Lego Lord of the Rings, Sam does not look anything like this. His hair is a little different. Well, I think the hair piece is the same, but his color is a little different. Of course, he's not going to have the same outfit, because technically this is when they were younger. So it's a little different. Maybe his hair changes colors. I don't know. But he has his pan, and then he also has a shovel and his tinderbox as well. Next up, we have Bilbo from Hobbiton. This is going to be the beginning of the game. He doesn't have anything too special about him. This is just during basically the party scene at his house when all the dwarves come. That's basically the only thing that's about him, is when that's from. Then we have, of course, Bilbo, which this is going to be basically Bilbo from the whole entire first movie. He has this very interesting red jacket with his kind of like vest and shirt on, and then he also has Sting now as well. And then I don't mean to do that, but I'm not really showcasing all that. But then, of course, he also switched. He has his walking stick, his fishing rod, and then I can't really showcase it, apparently. Maybe I can go in the treasure trove. But he has the ring here as well, and he can turn invisible with that. Alright. Then, next up, we have Gandalf, of course, with his staff, and then he gets the sword, of course, in the Troll Horde. So it's a very interesting design. I'm not sure, I don't really like the way they did this Gandalf. Like, I like his design, but the way they did his attacks, where he has a staff and then he has a sword as well, it's kind of hard to try to attack. I can't even attack with a sword right now. I have to be really close to something. But I really kind of hope they would have gone with the Lord of the Rings sort of design for his attacks, where he can switch between his staff and his sword, so it's not in between and you're accidentally shooting your staff while you're trying to swing your sword. Anyway, next up, we have Balin here, when he gets a little older. The first movie, of course, he has a very interesting chest piece there. He's got his cape on, and he's sort of older. He's got the same sort of sword when he was young, and of course his trusty axe that they all kind of keep on them. Then, we have Bifur, as we're getting into the rest of the dwarves here. He's got, once again, sort of a very interesting hairpiece here, because he's got sort of long hair, but he's also got his beard connected to it. Sort of like Thror, he has kind of the same layout of the beard, but of course it is just black spots instead of gold and stuff. He's got his cape, and he's got a very interesting chest piece there, and he has, of course, his spear and his axe as well. Then, we have a Bofur, of course, the miner of the group. He has a very interesting design on him. He's got a really cool chest piece to kind of show he's a miner. He's got his cape, and then of course he's got his little hat that he wears. And he comes with his hammer, of course, and his trusty axe as well. Moving on, we then have Bomber with his gray. I really like his design on the hair because it gives him the bald spot up top. Plus, he also has his hair sort of going down to his stomach to show how long his beard really is. And it's just interesting, and I also like the fact that he fights with the spoon thing. I don't remember what they're called. And then he has a sausage he could throw, and his axe as well. He's a very interesting design. Onwards from him, we have Dory, which has, of course, his flail as his weapon, as well as his axe, but he has his sword, and then he has his axe as well. And he has a very interesting chest piece. I feel like it's kind of obvious. I can't do much, so this video is going to be much longer. Considering we are at the fact of 8 minutes already and we're not even through the first row, I probably should speed this up. Okay, next off we have Dwalin, the next dwarf here. He has a hammer, of course. He has quite a good beard, no hair. But his beard goes down the backside, which is a little weird, but I think that's sort of how it is representation. He, of course, has his hammer here, as well as his dual-wield axes as well. Then, we have a Fili, who has double swords. Once again, he has long hair just like Thorin, but of course it's in a different color. A very interesting design with like the fur on his chest piece there. Then he has, of course, his axe as well, and he has a shovel. Then, excuse the burp, we have his brother, of course, Keely, with his bow. He's got the quiver on the back, long hair. Once more, he has a very interesting design on his chest. And then he also comes with a sword, as well as the trusty dusty axe that almost every dwarf gets. Then next up, we have Gloin with the nice beard design. He has his axe, and that is about it for him. He really doesn't get much attention in the game. Just kind of like he does in the movie, he doesn't really get much attention. Moving on, we are on to the second row now. We have Nori with his staff as well. I love his beard design. It really captures the feel and the hair. It's all like intricate. No other dwarf has anything like it. He has a very different staff, of course, from Bifur. And then, of course, he has the trusty dusty axe as well. And then next up, we have Oin, which is, if you don't know, the deaf dwarf. He has a very interesting staff as well. It's not the same as any other. And he has a really interesting beard piece, which kind of like, it's like a regular beard, but it splits and it has white in between to show like where he's aging and stuff like that. Then after that, we have Ori, which is the last of the dwarves, the regular dwarves here, with a slingshot of choice, which is very, very interesting. And then we go into regular Thorin here. This is regular Thorin instead of the young version. He has his sword and then his oaken shield to represent the oaken shield that he took during the fight with Azog. And then, of course, he has his axe he can bring out with that, too. And then he has the goblin cleaver as well from the troll horde. Okay, then we have Dory in his young version. We're starting to get into more of the young versions here. He has a different sort of chest piece here. Of course, his hair is going to be darker because he's younger now. And he has his flail, his trusty dusty sword, and his trusty dusty axe as well. Then we have another version here. We got Dwalin during his young version. He has his double axes as well as his hammer, but mainly he uses the axes when he's younger. Really interesting chest piece. I don't think anyone else in the game has a chest piece like it, so it's pretty cool. Next up, we have Radagast. They didn't really call it Radagast Brown, but that's his full name, Radagast Brown. He is very interesting in this game. He's got a pretty cool beard and a very intricate hat. His staff is like no other. He's the only character in the game to be able to heal like poisoned or, I guess, damaged enemies that are on the ground, damaged by the Morgul Blade. So that is a very cool, unique feature about him. The only thing he has will be his staff there. Then we have Goblin Confused, of course. Just not very a prominent character, but is helpful, of course, when you don't have any other goblins to climb the goblin walls or whatever with the dead stuff on them. Of course, he is not very prominent. He is just kind of there for a little bit in the movies and in the game. He's in one level to help out Bilbo in the goblin area down below. Then we have Legolas Greenleaf, or Legolas. He's got a very interesting design, very different from the one you will see in Lego Lord of the Rings when we get there. He's quite different. He has, of course, his bow, because he would never leave anywhere without his bow. And then he has his two daggers as well. Then next up, we have another elf here. We have Toriel with a very interesting design. I hate that she's not seen in Lord of the Rings, but it's perfectly okay. She is about the same as Legolas. She comes with her bow, and then she also has two very distinct daggers. Then we have Bomber in the barrel, of course, from when they are escaping the Thranduil's kingdom. When he gets stuck in the barrel, it's very interesting. He has his double axes, of course, and he's stuck in the barrel. There's not much that this Bomber can really do besides kind of attack. Then we have Toriel with a different outfit here from Lake Town. So nothing really changes besides her outfit. She has the bow and, of course, the daggers once more. Nothing else really changes from her. Then we have Balin in the Lake Town, so we're starting to get into the Lake Town uniforms here. We have Balin in his Lake Town uniform. Most of the Lake Town uniforms, I think, look the same, so there shouldn't really be much difference. Of course, Balin's going to have his sword and his trusty dusty axe on him. Then we have Bilbo in his Lake Town uniform, which isn't really a uniform. He just kind of changes into more of a blue jacket, and of course kind of has a little bit different clothing options there, where he still has Sting, he still has his walking stick and his fishing rod, and then of course he will still have the ring. After that point, we have Dwalin from Lake Town. Once again, not very different from the rest of them. He has about the same stuff as usual, his axes and his stuff. This is basically just to change outfits when they go to Lake Town up towards Erebor. Then we have Dory Lake Town here. Once again, nothing different. All of these are sort of going to be the same weapons, and they're all going to have the same clothing design as the rest of them. Nothing's really going to change. Then we have Galoin, with, of course, nothing much different here, so there's not much to really show on most of these characters. So we're basically still in the story range of characters where we haven't gotten to anybody too interesting. Of course, then we have Nori from Lake Town. Once again, very cool hairpiece and beard design there. Then, after that, we have Ori, which he gets one of the hats from Lake Town, so he starts to look more like a Lake Town guard, to be honest with you, which is sort of really cool. And then, last but not least for Lake Town, oh, maybe there's more that I'm missing here, but we have, then we have Thorin Lake Town. Of course, he's going to have the same stuff. His chest piece is a little different than the others. He gets, like, more of this kingly chest piece to show he's more... I think it's different, but he's like show he's more worth. Can I see your chest piece? Can I see your chest piece? Yeah, it's a little different to show he's kind of more worth something, and he gets a red cape there. I think some of them have gray capes, some of them have red capes. It's all sort of intriguing designs. Then we have Biffer from Lake Town, I believe. Is he one of the ones that stays behind? I think he does, and that's why he's sort of lower. Maybe he doesn't. I'm not exactly sure. And then, moving on, we have Bomber, of course, from Lake Town. His is a very interesting design, because he doesn't really get the whole, like, design, because he has a design under, but he has, like, this, like, bib sort of thing above that to kind of cover it, which is pretty interesting that it's a completely different design. And then we have, of course, Bard, with a very interesting design here. He's got his bow, and that's all he needs to live because he's Bard, of course. After Bard, we then have Feely from Lake Town. Of course, we know Feely stays behind to help with Keely, so he is one of the ones stay behind. I believe Biffer stays behind as well. I'm not sure though. From that point, then we have into more interesting characters that are not part of the story. This is going to, I think, from the cutoff of Feely Lake Town, the rest of the characters were characters we earned during the LBA series. So, of course, if you still haven't seen that, you should probably go see that before you even look at any of this. We have Bilbo Old. For some reason, he still decides to have Sting with him. He basically still has the same loadout that he has. Not going to do that. I was going to see if he still does, and he still does have the ring. So that's pretty interesting. I guess I just didn't decide to give him a different loadout or anything. Just keep him with the basics and rock and roll. Then we have Tom Bombadil. He's got a very interesting hat. He can also be found in LEGO Lord of the Rings, I believe. So we will see him once again sometime, eventually in the near future. He's very interesting design. It's nothing too perfect or uptight or anything. After that, we have Bomber in his young attire here. Of course, very different. All of them in their young attire have sort of different clothing options. This is one you have to buy. That's why he's sort of away from all the other young characters. Then after him, we have the Roar, but more of a armored version. So he's more armored instead, where he gets a shield to add to his loadout here, and he has more armor sort of underneath his beard here that you can't really see, but he sort of gets more armor underneath. How long are we in this video? Oh boy, we're already at 20 minutes. Okay, I probably should speed this up. Then we have the Gundabad Orc. Honestly, this is a pretty useless character, but it's cool of them to, of course, add the interesting design of just a orc from Gunabad. Sort of a reference to the last movie, but that didn't come out when they made this, so I'm not sure how it would really, clash. Because, of course, if you don't know the last movie, you probably should go watch it. If you don't want to hear about it, you can skip a little forward. But Gunabad orcs come in to play with Azog's war in the last movie. Okay, moving on. We have the Barrow-wight, which is very interesting because he's one of the few characters in the game who can smash the Morgul Lego objects, or the black ones that sort of make your characters cover their ears. He is one of the only characters in the game who can do so, and also has a very interesting design of all the characters in the game you can play, considering he is a complete skeleton model here with just a helmet. Okay, then hold on, let me see if there's any. Does he have any other weapons there? No. Barrow-wight? Nope. Okay, let's just make sure. Forgot to check weapons. Then after him we have Saruman, another very interesting character, considering this is the only character, if you do not have DLC, to be able to break silver Lego objects. So he is very useful to get as early as possible. For us, of course, we did not rush to get him because we had DLC content, which we'll get to the character that really helped us out there in a little while, but he does have an interesting design. He's all in his all-white sort of uniform, and I will say Saruman, if you haven't seen Lord of the Rings, gets very interesting later when we get to Lord of the Rings. He sort of changes all. Then we have Elrond in his gown here. He's going to have his sword, but he is more of in a midnight gown, maybe kind of like he's trying to go to bed, and he's just going to have his very cool sword here. I love his sword. It's got the ticks on it, and it's another Elvish sword. Elvish swords are always freaking cool. Next up, after that, we have another version of Elrond. Oh, never mind. We have Lindir. It looked like it was Elrond, but it is actually Lindir. They looked about the same. They kind of have the same face model, to be honest. But he's, of course, a very different person. I don't really know much about Lindir. I think he's in one or two scenes, maybe, in Rivendell, sort of following behind Elrond. After that, we have Yazneg, which is, I believe, one of the followers under Azog. I believe he's in the first movie more than the second one. I don't even know if he's in the second movie, but he has this really cool axe where it's made out of a bone, and I'm sure the axe part's not made out of an actual blade. It's probably made out of something different. But his design's really cool, though, because he has this neck piece that I don't think any other character in the game has. And his outfit's pretty basic, though, so it's nothing too great to come up with. Of course, after that, we have the Goblin Scribe. So basically, we got another goblin here. This is sort of starts the goblins that you get out of the story. He's basically the miniature goblin. He has a little dagger he fights with, and that's all about to him. He's got a really sort of weird design. His left eye sort of just twitches all the time, and it's really interesting how they kind of built the character. Then we have Grinna. I don't really know much about him. I didn't even really know that he had a name, but I'm sure there's a reason he has a name. He probably does something in the movies for maybe the Goblin King or something, and the Goblin King maybe calls upon him or something of the sort. I kind of don't pay much attention to the extra characters, but I probably should be. Okay, next up we have Gollum, which is a very, very interesting character. Of course, Gollum is first seen in The Hobbit in the caves underneath the Goblin King's sort of area. And he will, of course, don't want to spoil, but he gets very, very interesting later on in this series. Of course, we know Gollum did not die or anything in The Hobbit, from what we know. So, of course, when we get to LEGO Lord of the Rings, you will see how he kind of builds himself into a pretty good character. Moving on, we have, of course, the Barlaman Butterbur, which is basically, I assume, something we probably got from Bree, and he just kind of has a cup, and he's basically just one of those people at the barkeep, I guess that's the word I'm looking for. He has nothing really interesting about him, but his design is pretty interesting because I don't think anybody else in the game has the sort of apron and tie sort of design. So that's pretty cool. And that's to cut off the third row there. So we got about basically 3 more rows to go. Moving on with Beorn next, which is one of the more interesting characters in the game. 1, because of his hairpiece. 1, because of his design. 2, because of his design. His axe is really cool. And when you do a little bit of this circle action, he transforms literally into a bear. So he is one of the more interesting characters, being a shape shifter or shape changer. I can't remember what Gandalf calls him specifically. Next, we have the Mirkwood Elf Archer. Nothing too crazy. He's just, of course, from Mirkwood. He's an archer. He's got this, kind of the basic Mirkwood design. He's got his bow, and that's about all that's for him. Then we have the Mirkwood Elf Guard. This one would be one who probably stands outside of Thranduil's kingdom. Probably just watching guard and doing the normal stuff. Nothing too special, of course, with this character. Such as many of the other elf characters, there's not really anything too intricate about them. Next up, we have Bolg, who is a very, very key character in The Hobbit. Of course, this is basically Azog's right-hand man. Calls on him for everything, hunt down the dwarves, send the army from Gundabad, to do all that stuff. He's basically, Bolg is like his second-hand man, his little puppy dog. But I really do love the design, as he's got like the cut of the headpiece. He's got his teeth are like, you can't even see them because they're so sharp and like intricate. He's got 2 different eye colors. His like hammer sort of mace thing is so cool, and his design is like no other in the game. Of course, after Bolg, we would have the Mirkwood Elf Chief Guard, which is basically the same as the other one, but we're in more of a red outfit, and they also get a bow as well as the other weapon there. And then after that, we have Elros. I'm sure he has some major play in the movies that I don't know about, considering he's named. Of course, he has a bow, and that's about it for him. His design's interesting, though, because he is one of the only ginger elves that I think you really ever see. He has the orange hair. And, of course, his design on his chest piece and legs are very intricate that no other has. Then after him, we have the legend Thranduil here. I really love Thranduil's design in this game. He's got the red cape. His crown is very, very like intricate and different than anything else we've ever seen. He's got like the necklace and the very interesting body, and his sword, of course, is just beautiful and is used for very many different ways, of course. Next, we have Narzug. Once again, I have no idea who this character is, but they do have a ponytail, sort of, and I love ponytails, so good rating for me. And has a very, very interesting axe, sort of like deal. We're almost at 30 minutes. Okay, so this, like I said, this video is going to be much longer than the rest of them will be. Next up, we have the Elf Sentry. He has, of course, hides his face. It's just a sentry guard for the elves. Has the weapon, and of course has a bow as well. Nothing too specific. You'll see, I think this design shows up a lot more as well in LEGO Lord of the Rings. I think they also have this design, which is pretty interesting. Then we have the Elf Worker, who is the only character in this game to really have a lumber sort of axe or fire axe. And then he also has this like cooking thing as well that Bomber has. So it's like pretty interesting. Then after that, we have the Master of Lake Town. He has no interesting really abilities, but his design is one of the best by far. No other character has this design at all. He's got really long hair. His outfit is just stunning. The hat really makes up for everything, and is so crazy and goofy that it's wild. You never would really expect it. I really do like the design, but all he has is a sword, so it kind of weighs down on him, but he doesn't really do much in the movies. Then we have Alfred. Of course, he has a little dagger in his all-black outfit. This is basically the Master of Lake Town's right-hand man, as well as Bolg is Azog's. This is his right-hand man here. I'm not going to spoil anything for the third movie, but Alfred does get treated a little harsh, but I wouldn't call it harsh, depending on sort of what he does. Anyway, then we have Braga. which is, I assume, probably like the chief police force kind of guard. I think that's who he is for Lake Town. He has a bow and as well as his sword, and it's just a very interesting character because he has more of a specific chest piece and design for his outfit than anyone else in Lake Town does. Then we have the Lake Town Man guard, who sort of has more of a different design, kind of goes into regular Lake Town. He has the hat, of course, and then he has just his spear here. He looks a little terrified, like he's seen a dragon or something, but don't know why he would be seeing a dragon. Then we have, of course, the Lake Town Man archer version, where it's basically the same thing, but just with the bow and the sword, of course, to change it up a little bit. He takes the stance of like someone like Bard. For some reason, some characters with the bow take this stance, some people don't. Like, I know Keely, for example, doesn't take the stance. Could be because he's a dwarf and he's got sort of a shorter model, but who really knows? Alright, next up we have Percy. I think he has sort of like he has a prominent role, but not really. I think he has like one scene with Bard, and it's like, let the dwarfs in, you know, or something like that. And he like pays him or something, and that's a dwarfs in to the barrels or something. But he doesn't have much of a design. He just sort of has his fishing rod, and I do like the hair being long, and he has like a sort of hat, and kind of a specific design there. Next up we have Tilda, of course, one of Bard's children here. I believe this is one of Bard's children. I think this is the youngest daughter. Of course, nothing different. It has a very interesting design, of course, because, you know, they're all going to have this sort of the first, like, regular civilian character we've sort of seen here. Then next up we have Sigrid, which is, like, the oldest daughter. She has a ponytail design. She has her little thing here. I think she beats somebody with it. Has a different design, of course, than Sigrid. Or Tilda, my bad. And then, of course, you have Bane, which I think he's either the middle or the youngest. I think he's in the middle. I thought he'd be a lot taller than this. I don't think I've ever actually played as Bane. But I think his hair is usually darker. But he's got sort of an interesting clothing design. But I feel like he's a little taller than that. So they could have made him a little taller, maybe to match Sigrid, but that's okay. Then we have Fimble. I don't know much about him. I assume he's probably one of the orcs that follows under Azog, because a lot of them do follow under Azog. He has this like spear, like sword sort of thing here, and then he also has this axe that is intricate to some of the orc characters. Then we have the Witch King, who can smash more illegal objects, just like the Barrow White. This is one of the most interesting characters in the game, because it is the only sort of like a ghost type character, where they're not really, like a full person, because it's really a ghost that you see when you are in the ring. This is what you kind of see for the Nazgul, or whatever. Which kind of sad we didn't get any of the Nazgul in this game. Next up, we have the one and only Azog Claw. I don't know why they call him Azog Claw, if they should have just called him Azog, which kind of made me think that they were going to add DLC, or they were going to add the third game in, but they never really did, so it doesn't really make sense why he's called Claw. But he has his claw, of course, on his left hand. He's a very interesting design. No other orc like this. He sort of has, his chest piece has like a lifted part, because it's to show his buff and like armor sort of thing. Oh, look, it's his arm. Crazy. And then he has like this sort of like mace sort of a weapon here, but he also comes with the orc axe like most of the orcs do. Then after Azog, we have the Necromancer, another character here who can break more illegal objects. Not very a prominent role. Of course, Radagast does mention him once a few times, but he doesn't really do much, I'll be honest. He's sort of more like a puppy. But he's very cool in design. He's another one of the ghost characters behind the Witch King, which, when we get to LEGO Lord of the Rings, Witch King will definitely look different. Okay. Anyway, then we have Sauron, which is definitely, I feel, the most interesting character in the game. Because if you know anything about LEGO Lord of the Rings, Sauron is, they show him as this model, but he's got armor and stuff like that. And in this game, they don't do that. They take what you know from The Hobbit, of him being just a flame, and bring that character to life as he's literally just a flame. So the only thing he has is the mace that is on fire, and it is really cool though. I really do like the character design. I think it's the most interesting. Then we have a random Dale soldier with a very interesting sort of sword design. It's more like a dagger, but I think it's supposed to be a sword. And then of course he has his bow. He's in a very interesting costume no other character in the game I don't think has, because it's more of a Dale soldier versus Lake Town and other sort of places. Then we have Elrond armored. This is sort of when he goes to war. I want to say this is sort of supposed to be sort of like a flashback to Lord of the Rings, or not flashback, but like sort of a thing to show, because he really doesn't get armored up in Hobbit at all, because he doesn't really fight. It made me think this kind of is like to show like a Lord of the Rings, and they just kind of added him in, which is very interesting. Then we have, of course, Lady Galadriel. Very interesting character here, because of course she doesn't do much, but she is very prominent in the Middle-earth series in just general. She has very interesting hairpiece there, very cool design on her outfit. Doesn't really have anything to fight with. She just kind of be there and chill. Then we have Rosie Cotton, of course. I don't want to spoil anything, so if you want to skip ahead a little bit, this is Sam's wife. I don't know why she's in the game. I guess supposed to be sort of like more of a younger version of her. But she has a pan as well, which I actually did not know. And then, moving on, we have Keeley from Lake Town. Don't ask me why he's all the way down here, but he is. He's got his bow, of course, and then he's got the sword and the axe, like usual. And then, we have Oin from Lake Town. He is also down here, because he stays behind, I believe, to help with Keeley. And, of course, he has the same stuff as usual. Nothing too different. Then, we have Bofer, another one who stays behind. He has basically the same stuff. Not going to change much. And then we have the Bree Peasant, which if you did watch the LBA, he also has the axe. I did not know that. But if you did watch the LBA, I think it's part 2 or part 3. This guy was one of the weirdest characters in the game. You had to pay 100 carrots, and we had spent so much money on getting carrots. It was crazy, and it was just a weird, interesting episode, considering the less. But anyway, he's very interesting design there with the beard as well. Then we have probably, well, the last character in the game physically to get, and probably maybe the hardest, is Gimli the Blacksmith. Did I say that right? Yep, Gimli the Blacksmith. He has his blacksmith hammer here. That's the only thing he can fight with. And he doesn't even have a really interesting design. He just has his beard. But the really cool thing about the character is you have to physically get every mithril design, and you have to make every perfect mithril item, which means you have to have every single mithril brick in the game. So he is one of the hardest characters in the game to get. He was the last character we obtained in the 100% of LBA and stuff like that. So he's a very, very interesting character, to say none the least. Moving on, we're getting into the bigger characters of the main game. We have the Orc Berserker, one of the best designs in the game. It is beautiful how beautiful this thing is, without it being, you know, nice and pretty. He's got the white pale skin, he's got his armor on, he's got the skulls on the back, and the headpiece, and it's just, I love this design so much. If I ever had like a, sort of like, this is one of the Legos, like I would want to have in real life, is an Orc Berserker, because it's just so cool. Moving on from there, we have more big characters coming in. The Great Goblin, even bigger than the Orc Berserker. And he is such... You would never expect to really have this character be this big for like a game like this. Because I don't want to spoil anything, but in LEGO Marvel Superheroes 2, or LEGO Marvel Superheroes 1, the bad guy of the game, let's just say when you play as him, he gets shrunken down. But it is such a cool design. I love the mace design, or like the attack design. His crown, of course, is beautiful, and it's just really surprising to see him as a character in the game. Moving on, we have Goblin Brute, which matches the it might be even taller than the Goblin King. I don't think he is. I think they're about the same size. But he is also very interesting. He has like a collar around his neck. He's scratch marks on him. He has like scales, parts everywhere, and you could tell he's been in a little bit of tough ones. I like the teeth design too. The teeth design go really good. How many minutes are we at? 40. Okay. Alrighty, this is a long one. Then we have the 3 trolls here. We have Bert. I think he's blind in his left eye. I think that's why his eye looks like that. But of course, he has the like pot as his pickaxe. Let's say pickaxe. This is not Fortnite. As his like weapon, and he of course has a cooking apron as well. And it's just really interesting design. Then, moving on from him, we have Tom. Of course, another one with a very different sort of design for his clothing here, with like the straps and the part on the bottom there. Nothing too different besides like the eyes. The eyes colors are different, and that's just about it. Then we have the last of the 3, which is William. Of course, he gets the knife that Bilbo tries to steal to free the horses. He has the blue eye color, and he's probably the most basic besides the weapon. Probably the most basic one of them all. Then we have Mrs. Troll, which is the mother of the 3, which is really funny to see a character like this in this game, but they always have to have comedic characters in the games. And it's basically just the troll's mother. I don't know why she's purple, why she has a pan, why she has hair. Who really knows? But it's a really interesting design that they added in the game. And then for the last of the main content of the game, we have the Troll Bouncer, which is one of the coolest characters in the game. Considering he has a suit, he's kind of basic other than that, but it's just, you never really suspect this to be in the game. Sorry for the burp if you heard it. Alright, then we can skip the customs and go right into the DLC content, where the first character we have here is the Snow Troll. Another big character here, really interesting design, no other character like it, with the fur on the back and sort of the horns at the front. Pretty cool design. Then we go into the character that we were talking about earlier, that helped us break a lot of the mithril or the silver Lego objects, which was Baby Smog. This is one of the characters they really shrunk down. Of course, you can't have a big dragon just flying around Middle Earth again. Can't really have that. But anyway, moving on. I really do love his design, though. He's got like the scale, he's got the tail, the wings. They got him basically perfectly captured there. Then we have Ben Dubrastook, or the Bull Roarer. He's basically, I think he has to do with like parents of Bilbo, or like maybe grandparents. I don't know. I don't know the whole story behind him, but he really does help out because he's got a shovel, a tinderbox, and a fishing rod. So he's kind of a helpful DLC character. You know, it's a pretty simple design, of course, on him. And then next up, we have the Stone Dwarf, which is really interesting because if you can see where we're at, Stone Dwarf right there, Stone Dwarf right here. It's supposed to kind of mimic. It's kind of sad that he doesn't get any weapons, but it's supposed to kind of just mimic the dwarf up there. And then we have Gimli as a baby. Of course, if you don't know who Gimli is, that will tie into Lord of the Rings. I don't want to spoil anything, but the helmet definitely means a significance for this instance, and I really think his design's sort of cool, just considering it's a baby and it's not the actual version. Then we have another big character, the River Troll. I don't think I've ever seen this troll anywhere besides this game. I don't know if he's in the movies or something and I missed him, but holy, the beard on this and the hair is just so interesting. The colors, the way his outfit is kind of made, it's really interesting. Alright, then moving on, we have the Dwarf Soldier, which is really cool. He's sort of just like a normal soldier, like any other dwarf, but of course he's heavily armored. I think this is supposed to sort of represent the Five Armies movie, the last one. It kind of shows what the dwarves wear. I don't know if they exactly wore all this, but they wore something similar, at the least. Then we have Saruman on his day off. It's a very interesting design to give him. All he has is a walking stick. It's a very interesting design. I don't know why they gave him this design. Maybe there's like a meme or something about this, but it's very interesting, and it sucks because he doesn't have the staff, so you can't get away with the silver with him. Then we have the Lady Dwarf. Of course, it really shows off the dwarfs, female dwarfs, how they have beards as well, but it's more of stubble, and it's just kind of funny. She comes with the pot, of course, or the pan, and it's just really funny to see a character like that. But then, last but not least, we have Girion, which if you don't know, is the one who shot Smaug and made the black spot on him. Bard's ancestor or whatever. And I think it's a really cool character design there. Well, he only has a bow, but for DLC content, they did pretty well with DLC. And then, I guess I go with the mounts. There's custom mounts, and then there's the spider and the elk. You can kind of see them there. But that is going to be it for the roster of characters in LEGO The Hobbit. I hope you guys did enjoy, considering this was a 45-minute long video. I hope you guys stayed through. If you did skip through, that is okay, I understand. But would have particularly enjoyed if you watched the whole thing. Of course, smash a like if you really did enjoy the series, now that it's basically over. I enjoyed it myself, and I can't wait to jump into Jurassic World, doing some more 100% completion stuff. And what I really can't wait for is when we start another LEGO game, because I love the story of LEGO games. They get me super hype, and 100% kind of drains you a little bit, so you kind of have to take time off. And I don't know if we're going to take time off. I might start with it in a couple days. I might start with it tomorrow. Who knows what's going to happen with my schedule. Once again, I want to thank you all for watching. I had a really fun time with this series. Hoping to have more fun times with other series. God of War was also a really fun series, and I just love doing this for y'all, even if a lot of people don't watch. I really enjoy it. But thank you all once again for watching. I love all of you, and I will see you all later. Goodbye, guys.